But yes, I have created an entire actual power plant, voice crack, in Astroneer, and it generates 1,000 units of power per second, all the time, fully automatically, which means it's not manual, which means once you set it up, you don't have to do anything ever again. You will always get that much power for free. However, without further ado, I'm going to explain the structure of this video so that you know what's awaiting. The first thing I'm going to do is explain why it looks so dang nice, because obviously we have like an actual structure here, which is not necessary for the place to function. It just looks nice because it does. That's what it does. That's what it's for. I'm going to explain how to actually build stuff like this in Astroneer, because apparently a good deal of people don't know how to do that. And then I'm going to go on to explain what each section of this build does so that you can get a rough understanding of how the whole thing works. And then, for the third section of this video, I'm going to go back through and I'm going to explain in depth how the whole thing works. I have a sore throat. But without further ado, we're going to get straight into this. So as always, don't forget to like the video, and I don't mean the button. I mean, you're going to enjoy it. But yes, as promised, the first thing I'm going to go over is how to build structures in Astroneer, because as you can see right here behind me, we have a beautiful structure, cooling towers, a whole building over here, and that's nice because it means that your builds won't just be a bunch of auto arms and platforms and stuff. You can make it look nice, which is going to be good for my thumbnail. That's the only reason I did it. Anyways, the first thing you're going to need is a leveling block. And the reason leveling blocks are nice is because leveling blocks make cubes. And the thing about cubes is that they're made of flat faces, and so we can just build off of this to make walls and, you know, ceilings and stuff like that. However, there is an obvious issue to that, and that would be that your drill is massive. So if we try to use the flatten to go off of this like this, it'll be flat on this side. Evidently not. It'll be flat on this side, and then on this side, though, you will notice it's not exactly flat, and then it's way too fat. Nobody wants a wall this fat. Fat walls aren't cool, just like fat people aren't cool. And the way you fix that in creative, which is what I'll show first, and then I'll show how to do it in survival, is by opening up the drill menu here, which most people don't know how to do. I didn't know how to do it for a very long time. Really embarrassing. I had like 700 hours before I learned how to do this. But you get your drill out, then you press F. Then it opens up the drill menu, and we're just going to slide the size of the drill down to the very smallest one, and deform speed all the way up. So do that, and as you can see here, we get an ultimately thin wall. I mean, if you looked at this straight on, it would probably just vanish. So that's perfect. And then what we can do is go to the other side here and mimic it just like so. And then if we were to close this off, it would just look like a normal wall from the outside, except extra fat. You could make this half as thick, sort of like that, if you wanted to. But I don't prefer it because you can't do the thing over there with that where it kind of looks like windows. I'll explain that later. Wait, no, I'll explain that right now, actually. Because it's literally just a XL sensor arc, and you just put it in the wall, and it just looks like a window. It's not a window at all. You can just walk through it, but it looks really cool because it looks like a window. Hope you're proud of me. Anyways, you can't just put this in a wall. You have to build the wall around it, so that's really annoying. I'm not going to show how to do that here because there's not really a method to it. You just have to keep fighting it until it decides to sit still so you can build around it. It's annoying, and it will hurt your feelings. I want to show you how to color things in creative. And so you open up the drill menu again, and obviously you select the color you want, but if you already have a wall, you don't want to tear it down and rebuild it, so you press C or V, cycle through like that until you get the paintbrush, and then you can also pick a color if you go to the color picker, which is also done by pressing C or V, and then you can just pick any color you see and do it like that. We're going to go on to how to do this stuff in survival, which is with the narrow mod. Everybody already knows how the narrow mod works, so I'm not actually going to really say much. I'm just gonna like show that it's the same thing visibly right now by going into survival. Everybody knows what the narrow mod is. It just makes your drill smaller, and as you can see here, it has precisely the same effect as the creative one, so you can in fact do this in survival just fine. The thing I do want to show you about survival though is that you can also paint soil, and the way you do that is with the terrain analyzer, which is a drill augment. Now I'm gonna real quick explain, because if you're looking for this in creative, it's in a really cursed spot. It's not with the other drill mods for some reason, and it's not with these either. It's not with any of these. It's like down here. right here. It's just like away. I don't know why it's somewhere else. I just thought I'd show you that for a fun fact. But what this thing does, as I'm going to show you in creative right now, is it allows you to just start mining a soil of the color you want, right? So let's say I like purple, which I don't because that's... Anyways, I don't like purple, so I'm going to use it as an example, though, because it looks nice. It's out here and unique. And as you can see, the moment I started to mine some, it becomes part of the terrain analyzer. And if you try to mine another color, it doesn't work. It just stays purple. So make sure you choose wisely the first time, because it will only let you mine that color once you start on it. And then you just fill it up, which is really quick with a drill this size. And now you have that on. And so how it works now is that as long as that is on your drill, and you have to be in survival to test this, because it'll just use your creative drill color. If you're not, we go into survival. And now if we build soil, it is going to be purple as long as that is on. So beautiful. That's how you build color soil, but we want to know how to color soil that's already there, obviously, in case we've already built our structure before we got the color we want. And we do that with the inhibitor mod. And what the inhibitor mod does is it inhibits us from mining soil, that's just wild, isn't it? So as you can see, we can't dig anything at all, so you're probably wondering how we would use this to paint. And the way you do that is by holding Alt. Because, you know, just as if you were going to build up, but it just doesn't let you build up, it just paints. So there you go. Anyways, now that I've explained what it means to build a house in Astroneer, I'm going to quickly give you an overview of how this whole entire system works, and then, as I said, I'm going to come back in later and explain it more in depth. Why is there like a second light coming in behind me there? Is that like... Okay, we fixed it. Anyways, in here, obviously, we are utilizing the tapper because, well, actually, that's not obvious at all yet. Let me first explain that it ends in generators. That's what we're using to generate this power. We're using medium generators because they produce so much. As you can see, they produce 9 units of power a second. And so, yes, obviously, the way we're getting that carbon is by smelting organic that we get from tappers. And we are using the honeypot because it is the best plant for that. And then the organic all comes around here to the smelters, where they will smelt the carbon and then put the carbon onto a train. And then the train goes underneath because that looks nice. I don't want a railroad right here coming out the door. And then the train comes up right here, goes over here, and gets unloaded by these auto arms. These unload it and then put them into the medium generators so that we can have power. Seems like quite a simple system, but what you have to understand here is that we are fueling 112 medium generators, and what that means is we have to make almost 1 carbon per second, and also move that much carbon fast enough before the generators run out of fuel. So that's the whole challenge of this build. It's not so much automating it, it's making sure that it's automated at a great enough pace to where you can reasonably get all of the carbon that's necessary in order to supply the power. So now we're going to go more in depth about how this works. By the way, this train system right here, lackluster, but I'll complain about that later. Alright though, it is in-depth time, and as I explained earlier, we are using, of course, the tapper, which if you don't know, you just put it on a plant that's planted by you. You have to plant the plant, then you put the tapper on it, and it will just make organic forever. You don't have to do anything, and then you can use auto arms to get that organic. Now, the reason I'm using the honey pot, which is a plant found on Aatrox, if you couldn't tell by the fact that you can see actual suck coming off of it, it is the best one by far. This is the one we need to use because we need a ton of carbon. We need 1 carbon per second, so obviously we cannot waste any efficiency here. I had to use the best plant for this system, and I needed 18 of them, but I did 20 to just be slightly overkill, because, you know, you need to be slightly overkill in this life. So we have 20 honeypot plants here with tappers on them. And that's how this works. And then obviously the auto arms move the organic along. And as you can see, there's just 1 auto arm for every 4 honeypots. So we just have 5 auto arms across here taken from the plants. And then they all put the organic onto the same line here that just moves it to the smelter. Down here we have 1 auto arm, then we have 2, then we have 3. The obvious reason for the number increasing each time is because as we go along here, there's more organic to move because more auto arms are putting organic onto the line. Whew. Anyways, we need 4 auto arms because it would take like 3.3 or something with how fast they are in order to move all the organic, and 3.3 auto arms isn't a real thing, so we had to round up to 4. It takes 4 auto arms. That is in fact necessary. We need 4 auto arms to move this much organic. That is how fast we have to produce the carbon. We need an entire 4 auto arms all the time, constantly moving organic and carbon to keep up with the generators because of how fast they burn the fuel. But yes, that is the first section explained, and so now we're going to move on to the next section. Time to explain how the train system works. By the way, I'm going to be far less enthusiastic for this portion, both because I hate it and my throat is sore because this is about my 5th time trying to explain it before realizing that I didn't do a very good job of explaining it because there's no such thing, and then restarting. So, this is my final take. If I explain it poorly, you're just going to have to live with that. But yeah, obviously, this is just where the train gets loaded. Okay? And so the rest of the explaining is going to be over here, so I can actually show you how the trains know when to leave when they're getting loaded and unloaded, and how they know where to go, and all that stuff. Give me a minute, I'm out of breath. Alright, so the first thing I need to explain is that the trains simply know when to leave whenever they get loaded or unloaded of carbon, right? So we're just using a storage sensor. Over here, we have a storage sensor. Hang on a second. Something I didn't mention, and I'm not going to redo the take because I screwed this up. Like I said, throat sore. We're powering through. There's 2 trains, you'll notice. And the obvious reason for that is because we have to move so much carbon, as I said. So we always have to have one loading while one is unloading. We require that type of efficiency. That's why there's 2 trains, and that's why this train system is hard to do. For me, because I'm stupid. That's why this is hard to do, because we have to make it so that 2 trains effectively work off of the exact same rail stations without hitting each other in the face and screwing the whole thing up. Anyways, we use a storage sensor, and it's just it's sensing the entire train, because that's something you can do. So it's saying whenever the whole train is empty of storage, or whenever the whole train is full on storage, we're going to activate something. And what it activates is the train itself to tell it to leave, but also the resource canisters to tell them to turn off when they empty, right? So when the storage sensor, or when the resource canister empties, it turns off so that it can take storage back in whenever it goes to the other station to be filled up. That was a poor explanation, but if you rewatch it about 8 times, you'll probably know what I was trying to say. So, I'm not going to explain that again. So, basically, the trains just know to leave. That's it. They just know to leave. So the rest of the logic has to do with making this turn the way it needs to be at a given time in order to properly shuffle the trains back and forth without them hitting each other in the face. And so that's what I'm going to explain right now. So when it started out, the rail junction was like this. It curved this way, right? And the train was here unloading. And as we already mentioned, whenever the train got finished loading, it was going to take off. That's what it does. So it's going to go here, as you saw. It just goes here. And so, we use the rail station to tell the junction to change directions when this train arrives. And the way we do that is by using the activation pin. That's this thing. But there's one right here, too, which is the one I use. There's 2 on each rail station, right here and right here. And so, we take the activation pin, and we just turn it right here, because it looks cool when it turns instead of going in a straight line. That's all this is. This is just me turning it. And then it goes straight to the back of the rail junction to straighten out the track. Now, I would like to explain that for a second, okay? Rail junctions work like this. There are 3 activation pins, right? There's one here, and one here. There are 3 activation slots because there are 3 ways a junction can go. It can go left, it can go right, or it can just be straight on down the middle right there. And so, the way it works is, if I activated this one in this corner, it would turn, this way. It would curve this way. The curve would be around that point. If I do this corner, the curve will be around that point. If I do the back, it'll simply be straight. And so that's why this rail station goes to the back of the junction. Because when it arrives, it's turned the wrong way for the train that's full to go over here to be empty. So it has to tell the rail junction to straighten out so that train can get there when it's time to go to be emptied. Anyways, as you can see, there was a little more to it than that, because after it went straight on across, it both changed the track twice, and made that train leave. So we're going to explain how that works, and obviously that's with this rail station right here. This train arrived is what made this train leave, and what changed these tracks around appropriately. So we're going to explain that. Of course, we use the activation pin again. It goes across here, and it splits two ways. Now I'm going to roughly explain what it does in each direction, then I'm going to explain how to time it properly. And I'm so sorry that it's this in-depth. That's the way things are. So, the reason it goes this way is, and this is the delay repeater, like I said, that's timing. That's just a timing thing, and I'm going to explain the timing in a second. So the gist of it is just that the signal runs this way, and it activates this slot. Now, how these slots work right here on rail stations are, if you activate the one in the front, the train will go that way. If I activated the one in the back, the train will come towards me, but there is no towards me, so obviously that doesn't matter in this instance. But that's how those work. So obviously I activate this one so that the train that's here would take off that way, so it could go to be unloaded once this one arrives here. And then there's the other direction, of course. It goes this way, which goes to a delay repeater. Again, ignore those for now. Which changes the track, as you can see. It's right here, so it changes it this way so that the train can actually leave. Let's let that go where it needs to. It changes it this way so that that train can actually leave to go get loaded again. And then, after that train leaves, because of timing, it goes to this delay repeater and changes it back this way, because while all that's happening, this train is still unloading, and it needs to be able to show up here whenever it does, so it has to turn it back this way. And so now I'll explain the timing real quick, and that should be the end of this explanation, and I'm so sorry. My throat's so sore. Alright. Anyways. The timing on it works like this. The first thing that needs to happen, obviously, is that this needs to change direction, right? So this changes direction to go this way. We do this first. So this delay repeater is on a 5 delay. Now you may be wondering, why is it delayed at all if it's the first thing that has to happen? Well, that's because this rail station is really close to this junction. So you don't need that if it's further away. But what I found is with them this close, it kind of bugs out to where when this one arrives and tries to change the junction in this direction, it kind of bugs out and still thinks that it's on the junction because it's so close. So I just needed a slight delay to make sure that that always works. And so that's why there's a delay on this one. And then, the next thing that goes off is that we tell the train to leave, because now we have it turned in the right direction. Now the train leaves, which is why this delay is on 10, which is slightly after that one changes direction. Then the last thing that happens is this one, which is on a max delay of 25, because after this changes direction, and the train leaves and it's gone, we need the track to turn back that way so that this one can go here to wait so that the whole cycle I just explained in a very inefficient way can repeat itself. And so here we are at the last section with a very sore throat, and obviously all we do here is just take the unreasonable amount of carbon that we constantly produce, and we distribute it to 112 generators. And that's why I'm showing you this section. Again, it's not what we're doing that's so annoying that requires an explanation. It's how fast we're doing it. I'm just going to show you how we can actually get this much carbon to this many generators in a small space. And basically the way you do it is just by dividing it out into a circle like this, right? I have all of the generators in a circle-like pattern. By the way, I was screwing with the trains earlier. That's why they're not all full on carbon. I stopped the trains when I was explaining how the rails work. If you leave the trains be, they will in fact keep up enough to fill up all the generators. But yes, the carbon just comes in here, and it gets distributed to the generators in a circular way like this. So you only really need a couple of auto arms to do this, if you do it right, because you can put the generators on a giant platform, and then just make the auto arms deliver the carbon to a medium storage on that platform, and they'll all just grab the carbon from that automatically. You don't have to have every single medium generator within the reach of an auto arm. As you can see here, this auto arm supplies, what is that? I can't count. 18 generators by itself. This one auto arm supplies 18 generators. So as you can see, as long as you use medium storages like this on big platforms with a bunch of generators, it's not very tedious at all, really, to distribute the carbon just using auto arms to this many generators. But that's how you do it, everyone. That is how you build a power plant in Astroneer. Every time I make a cool video, I screw something up. You know that? like the rail system, was this one. I made the rail system inefficient. Bad inefficient. I haven't designed one yet, but I can feel it in my soul with the new information I came into that there is 1000% a way more efficient way to do the rail system. Every time I make a video that's really good, I make one part of it lame. Anyways, hope you have a nice day. I'm going to go stop talking forever because my throat's sore. So I need to find peace with that. And so do you. I just zoned out. I don't guess you have to find peace with it. That doesn't really mean anything.